Hi there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. This is video 1 for the Shortcuts price list that will go out this Wednesday, October 22nd at 9 p.m. Sydney time. Now, this first list is a Japanese kind of genre list, but the second list, which I'll do shortly afterwards, is the first of the tranche of UK presses that I brought back from my trip to Europe. All right, so if you are new to Shortcuts, I'm just going to kind of bring you through the records. The price list will go out, as I said, on Wednesday. If you would like to be on the mailing list, just drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. A small plug as well, I will be raffling off some very valuable records that I collected in the UK on a Facebook group called The Vinyl Frontier. I will be doing that over the course of the next few weeks. I will send a separate email that explains how the vinyl raffle works. But basically, for the cost of a few dollars, you could end up winning a record worth easily $500 or $600. So it's well worth reading that email when it comes out. All right, so here we have our genre list. It's got reggae, jazz, blues, some rock and roll toward the back as well. Now, to start this list, I really struggled. I have 2 records here that could in fact 3, and maybe even 4, that could be on any given week the kickoff record. But on this list, which I'm very proud of, by the way, they're not. So I'm going to start here. I asked myself, what's my favorite of the 4 that we're going to talk about? And it's this one. This is Monkey Man by the Maytals. This is the PA 6333 Japanese repress. It is in utterly fantastic condition. It has the blue Trojan label and looks, if it's been played a couple of times in its life, that is about it. The Maytals, of course, lead singer Toots Hibbert is a Jamaican powerhouse and legend. In fact, legend has it he defined the word reggae in their song Do the Reggae in the late 60s. And they fuse church reared soul and reggae and yard-born rhythms into something that is fresh and amazing. But part of what makes them so special is Toots Hibbert's voice. I think if I were making a list of the greatest vocalists of all time, he would be in my top 5. I think he is an incredible singer. And there is song after song on this record where I think, you know, he's as good as Al Green, he's as good as Otis Redding, he's as good as Aretha Franklin. From the opening track, Peeping Tom, which is just a stellar track, all the way through to probably the greatest reggae single maybe ever in Pressure Drop. I mean, it's just a magnificent record. The second track on side 2, the title track, in fact, Monkey Man, was then covered by the Specials on their debut album produced by the wonderful Elvis Costello. This is reggae music, as it says on the back. Just an absolutely remarkable record. If you don't have a copy or you don't know anything about it, give it a listen. They're reasonably expensive to buy, so I know it's not for everyone. But if you've been, you know, so many DJs have pulled from this record, everything about it is just magnificent. Toots was a prize fighter when he was a teen, and he claimed that all the road work and running taught him breath control, which is partly why his vocal is so powerful. Like all things with Toots Hibbert, I don't know how much of that is myth and legend and how much of it is real, but I love it all the same. Now, the thing about it is, this second record, I almost put this in as a kickoff. This record was a specific request from me to the folks in Shibuya because I got a copy of this in a box about a year ago and I have absolutely loved it. And I said, I want another, and it's only just arrived in the most recent box. This is Succotash by Herbie Hancock. Now, the first thing you'll notice, it's still in the shrink, and you can see the obi strip is kind of unusual. It's in the shrink, and it sits at the top of the record. Now, I've been trying to dig into why this could be the case. And this record, this particular pressing, is not listed on Discogs. And I think it's because it is a UK, it's an American Blue Note version. You can see the Blue Note label that was imported into Japan, but obviously sleeved specifically for Japan because of the obi and because it's still in the shrink. Now, it also has this that I haven't seen, which might be a US thing. Can you see this is the Blue Note inner? I've kept this here for the lucky buyer. Now, part of what makes this record so appealing to me is it's a double header. Can you see you got Herbie Hancock here? And then you got Willie Bobo over here. Now, Willie Bobo is a percussion rhythmic genius, and he and Herbie Hancock drive this record. So you've got Herbie in acoustic piano mode long before the kind of fusion world that he entered, and this amazing Spanish influenced, Latin percussion in the background, Willie Bobo, and by the way, some fantastic bass lines as well. Just absolutely killer record. Now, it turns out that this was also released under a different name. And now I'm struggling to remember it. I think it might be Inventions and something or other. But so some of you might listen to this and go, oh, this kind of sounds familiar. Either way, it's one of Herbie's best, and and that means a lot. This is Succotash by Herbie Hancock and Willie Bobo. All right, before I move on to the other two that were, maybe even three that were in consideration for the list, I just wanted to have a brief segue. Ace Frehley, guitarist and founding member of Kiss, passed away during the week. Now, Kiss are not my favorite band, and never will, but I do have this Japanese first press of Unmasked on Casablanca that I picked up whilst I was in the UK. And so it's in really nice condition, complete with obi and inserts and all that stuff. So if you're a Kiss fan, keep an eye out for that. All right, third in the genre list beyond Kiss is this record. I've not had this for a long time. This is Blues from the Gutter by the incredible Champion Jack Dupree. Now, this is the Japanese press. I think it might be from the late 70s, early 80s. It's the exact same one I have on my shelf. The sleeve notes on this are worth the time. Absolutely incredible. Champion Jack Dupree, here he is, by the way. There's a lovely picture of him here. There he is. It's on the red and black Atlantic label. Had been a working musician for a really long time. I'm trying to remember where he was born. I did remember in the past, but I can't remember now. But he was a blues pianist, and he was completely self-taught, completely unvarnished, rolling kind of left-hand patterns, but really fast, rigid right-hand jabs, and great voice as well. He would often speak to the listener in the way of kind of sly, sardonic asides, and the lyrics of Blues from the Gutter are about people living a life on the other side of the tracks. Just about every song on here is about drugs or the impact of being an addict in one way or another. Some of the most famous, for example, if I there's the lyric sheet on this, by the way, is well worth your time. Bad Blood is magnificent. Part of the reason that this record is so good, it was recorded in '58 and by Tom Dowd, who did an incredible job. And you've Champion Jack Dupree on piano and vocals, Pete Brown on alto sax. By the way, the saxophone playing is really earthy and warm. This guy called Ennis Lowry on guitar, Wendell Marshall on bass, and Willie Jones on drums. When the guitarist Ennis Lowry hits, the tone of his guitar is incredible. It floors me every time. Songs like Junker's Blues, where he describes that all he wants to do is get high, that's all that matters. And then the guitar hits you like a needle in the vein. It is magnificent. Bad Blood, also just spectacular. Absolutely stellar album. Another, if you haven't listened to Blues from the Gutter, just do it. If you want a really deep cut, how about Can't Kick the Habit? Just give it a go. It is magnificent. Anyway, and you know what? Kind of hard to believe that it's recorded in 1958 when you think of it, when you listen to the subject matter. But if you dig back through the blues, there are so many songs from the 40s into the early 50s that are absolutely about heroin and cocaine. And, you know, the impact that it has. Fantastic. And if you've watched Sinners, which I really hope some of you have, fantastic movie. There are some blues songs on there that really remind me of Champion Jack Dupree as well. All right, before we move on to some jazz, I have another little detour into the world of reggae. I have this. This is a Japanese press of the early compilation of the best of Desmond Dekker, Kingston's Rude Boy. This runs through Reggae Recipe, Licking Stick, Pickney Gal, It Mek, which is one of the key early roots reggae singles, Archie Wawa, Mother Nature, all the way to the final track, one that you might well have heard of called Israelites. Again, this is on the Trojan label. There you go, the blue Trojan label. This is when Rocksteady just dominated Jamaican airwaves, and everything about this album is prime, core, killer Rocksteady, and one of the great singles artists of that period. And it is a really, really nice record, really nice pressing as well. Another record that, like Monkey Man, various DJs and dance floor fillers have ripped off over the years. So that's early Desmond Dekker. All right, let's look at some killer hard bop. This is Joe Henderson, page 1. And that's, you can see, fantastic condition, still in the OB. Beautiful Blue Note record. Joe Henderson, Detroit born. Let me see who the band is here. Kenny Durham on trumpet, Joe Henderson and tenor sax, McCoy Tyner on piano, Butch Warren on bass, and Pete LaRocca on drums. He has this really dry, forceful tenor tone, and this is considered easily the best of his early Blue Note kind of reign. Interestingly, Joe Henderson made a comeback later in life that a lot of people rate as just as compelling and just as strong as anything he did in his kind of 60s Blue Note heyday. But look, I mean, everything from Kenny Durham's Blue Rossa, which has appeared on a few Blue Note records, all the way through to La Mesha and the kind of really cool jazz on side 2. You're just in for a treat here. I know Blue Note have been repressing this record as well. I think its reputation has grown over the years. It's a really good example of that kind of killer hard bop period. All right, we're going to move through a couple of different things now. For the last few years, you will have heard me rave every now and then about the Japanese Master Sound series. There's a Master Sound version of a few of the Pink Floyd records, which are nosebleedingly expensive. The ones that I've been able to find are, I think one time I had Master Sound Bruce Springsteen, Master Sound Earth, Wind and Fire, etc. But the Master Sounds of Michael Jackson have been by far and away the biggest hits in the history of shortcuts. They're just rare and very expensive, particularly as they come in a box, etc. What I have here, though, is the Master Sound pressing of Off the Wall by Michael Jackson. But you'll notice it doesn't have the all the accoutrement around this. And so it was given to me much more cheaply. So this is a very effective way of getting into that Master Sound pressing, which are well worth, by the way, the ones I have on my shelf. Really cool record, of course. You all know Off the Wall and the genius that worked on it. He worked on it with Quincy Jones. Highly recommend, particularly the Master Sound of Off the Wall, which I think is probably a bigger, a more clear audible difference than between the Thriller Master Sounds, and the traditional and the first press Thriller. But anyone has any questions about that Off the Wall, just drop me a note separately. Now I've got a couple of records that I've never had before. This is Avalon Sunset by Van Morrison. Now this, I'm not sure if this is the US first press. It could well be. I've never seen this on vinyl. Whenever God Shines His Light. And the classic track from this, one that I think is as good as anything in his canon, which is the lovely Have I Told You Lately. I personally really like Coney Island as well. Very gospel-y, very warm, jazz tinged, spiritual. Very rare to see this on vinyl. As I said, I don't think I've ever seen it before. There's the inner with the lyrics in lovely condition. I don't know. I thought pretty long and hard about keeping this one, but I just suspect that there's someone out there that loves this record much more than me. Avalon Sunset by Van Morrison. This is the first of my white label promos tonight. This is Al Green's. Al Green Explores Your Mind. Promo, white label with Obi. This is killer Memphis minister of satin and smoke that Al Green was. This is working with the absolute genius producer of High Records, Willie Mitchell. These super dry drums, breathy organ, everything perfectly in the mix. A little filigree of guitar just to kind of fill in the gaps. Al Green never having to raise his voice because it's all there as he dances around the melodies. It's a wonderful record. If you don't have any, look at him on here, what a handsome man. If you don't have any Willie Mitchell produced High Records, then you're in for such a treat. What have we got here? Take Me to the River. Oh my God. With that, Talking Heads then made famous. Brilliant record. And, any of the Willie Mitchell produced High Records releases with Al Green are worth having in your collection. Call Me, Let's Stay Together, and this one are probably the three most famous, but they're all wonderful. All right, look at this. I love this old kind of colorful label from ABC Records. This is LA Midnight by BB King. One of my personal favorite BB King records. This is kind of a textured sleeve, really nice Japanese press. By the early 70s, BB had kind of stretched into his West Coast studio phase and had developed this really laid back LA style. And it's really conversational, brilliant interplay, really groovy blues record. One of my favorites of BB's. All right, now the next two next 3, 4, 5, you will definitely know these records, but I'm just going to swing you through them so you can see what variations we have. A few weeks back, I had the Japanese first press of Fleetwood Mac Rumours, and I kind of forget just how marvelous it is. Now, someone, you know who you are, you email me raving about this. And then in the box, they've sent me through a really lovely copy, complete with Obi, and everything in it. This is, let me just have a quick look at the record. It's just magnificent. So that's in the week when rumors are flying around that Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks are maybe coming out on the road together. It's beautiful to see rumors and my favorite and Shortcuts royalty, Tusk. I know many of you have it. I know that I always have it on the list, and that is because it is utterly magnificent. I love Tusk. I love how this record sounds. Everything about it is wonderful. Tusk, in my opinion, Fleetwood Mac's masterpiece. All right, I have 3 more to go. I have the Japanese first press of the wonderful debut album from Roxy Music. One of the very first Japanese records I ever got was For Your Pleasure by Roxy Music, and I have now replaced all of my Roxy with the Japanese equivalents because they sound that much better, not a little bit better, a big step change better. And the wonderful gatefolds of early Roxy, sleazy, sexy music is brilliant. And, you know I always go on about labels because I've got a thing about them, but the Pink Island label is another classic. This is a beautiful condition record too. If you don't know Eno era Roxy music, well worth investigating, and that's as good an example as I've had for a long time. I mentioned that I had rumors with Obi a while back, and the person who got it wrote to me and was very pleased. Similarly, a few weeks back, I had Supertramp Breakfast in America with Obi, and a few of you tried to grab it and weren't lucky enough to do so. There's another beautiful label. This copy, I think, is probably in even better condition. The notes that they sent me from Shibuya is that this one has never been played. I'm not sure that's true. If it has been played, it's minimal, but it's in lovely condition, and is a classic record, as you all know. And then finally, I love it when they drop these into my box. The red translucent vinyl press of Rubber Soul by the Beatles, complete with the really rather charming lyric sheet. Well worth reading through some of the misinterpretations of the lyrics, and the original inner that has a lot of very interesting and unusual records in there that they were advertising at the time. So that's fully complete red translucent vinyl on the black Odeon label of the mighty Rubber Soul. So there you have it. That's the Japanese list for this week. The Maytals and Champion Jack and Roxy Music and the Maytals and Herbie Hancock, and Joe Henderson and Desmond Decker and more. As a reminder, if you would like to be on the price list for those records, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Otherwise, price list will come out on Wednesday. I would advise you all to be sharp. I think there are a few records on there that are going to go in the first 2 seconds. All right, I will start preparing the UK list. As always, please let me know if you have any comments, any thoughts, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.